Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable U.S. coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking copper coin in your hand, a coin that may have passed through grocery stores, gas stations, lunch counters, and movie theaters more than 70 years ago. A coin that most people would overlook without a second thought. And yet, hidden in plain sight, that very coin could be worth a fortune today. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny, a classic piece of American history that has surprised collectors with its unexpected value. The 1952 wheat penny was struck during a time when America was stepping confidently into the post-war era. The Korean War was ongoing, television was becoming a household staple, and the nation was experiencing rapid industrial growth. In the middle of all that change, millions of pennies were produced for everyday commerce, including the 1952 issue. This coin belongs to the legendary Wheat Cent series, officially known as the Lincoln Wheat Cent. The design was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first regular issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. The obverse of the 1952 penny features the dignified profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head, you'll see the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust" arches along the top edge. The date 1952 sits proudly to the right of Lincoln's portrait. Now here's where things get interesting. The no-mint mark version. In 1952, pennies were struck at multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a D mint mark, while San Francisco coins have an S. But coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint during that era carried no mint mark at all. So, when you see a 1952 penny with no letter beneath the date, that means it was minted at the historic Philadelphia Mint, the original U.S. Mint established in 1792. Philadelphia produced a massive number of 1952 pennies. In fact, over 186 million were struck there. With such a large mintage, you might think this coin would never be valuable. And in circulated condition, many of them are still worth only a small premium over face value. But condition changes everything. The 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny was made primarily from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Because copper is a relatively soft metal, these coins wear down easily in circulation. After decades of use, most surviving examples show heavy wear, scratches, dull surfaces, and fading details. That's why high-grade, uncirculated examples are so special. When collectors evaluate a coin, they look at its grade, a measure of how well the original detail and surface quality have been preserved. Coins graded mint state, often abbreviated as MS, have never been in circulation. They retain their original luster and sharp design details. For the 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny, values can vary dramatically depending on grade. In lower circulated grades like good or very fine, the coin might be worth only a few cents to a couple of dollars. But when you move into higher mint state grades, especially MS 65 and above, the price begins to rise significantly. These coins must have strong luster, minimal marks, and crisp detail on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and coat. And then there are the true condition rarities, coins graded at the very top of the scale, such as MS 67 or higher. These are coins that look almost exactly as they did the day they were struck in 1952. They are incredibly difficult to find because most coins from that era were released directly into circulation. In these ultra-high grades, the 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny becomes a prize for serious collectors. Auction records show that a superb gem example in near-perfect condition once reached a staggering value of $67,472. Yes, A single 1-cent coin. What makes such a coin so valuable? It's not just age. It's rarity within condition. While millions were minted, only a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition. Over time, coins are spent, lost, damaged, cleaned improperly, or simply worn down by use. Another factor that can influence value is eye appeal. Some 1952 pennies display beautiful red coloration, known as RD by grading services. Freshly struck copper coins have a bright red-orange tone. Over time, exposure to air causes oxidation, turning them brown. Collectors generally categorize copper coins into three color designations: red, red-brown, and brown. Full red examples with blazing original luster are the most desirable and command the highest premiums. Strike quality is also important. Some 1952 pennies show weaker detail in Lincoln's hair or in the wheat stalks on the reverse. Strongly struck examples with sharp wheat lines and bold lettering are preferred by collectors. Speaking of the reverse, let's not forget the iconic wheat design. Two elegant wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the pluribus unum at the top. This simple yet powerful design symbolized America's agricultural strength and prosperity for nearly 50 years, until it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The Wheat Penny series holds a special place in the hearts of collectors. Many people first discovered coin collecting by searching through pocket change for wheat cents. There's something nostalgic and exciting about finding a coin that hasn't been produced for decades. If you're searching for a valuable 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny, there are a few things to watch for. First, check the overall condition. Look closely at Lincoln's cheek and jawline. These are high points that show wear first. If they're flat and smooth, the coin has seen circulation. Second, tilt the coin under a light. An uncirculated coin should display cartwheel luster, a spinning shine that moves across the surface when the coin is rotated. Third, examine the color. Is it bright red, or has it turned brown? Red examples are far more desirable. And finally, consider professional grading. If you believe you have a high-grade example, submitting it to a reputable grading service can authenticate and encapsulate the coin, giving it credibility in the marketplace. It's important to remember that not every 1952 no-mint mark penny is worth a fortune. The vast majority are common and affordable. But the thrill lies in the possibility. That tiny copper coin sitting in an old jar, tucked inside a drawer, or inherited from a relative could turn out to be something extraordinary. The story of the 1952 wheat penny reminds us why coin collecting is so captivating. It combines history, art, economics, and the excitement of discovery. Each coin carries a journey, from the minting presses of Philadelphia to the hands of countless Americans over decades. And sometimes, against all odds, one survives in breathtaking condition. A small copper time capsule from 1952, preserved nearly perfectly for over 70 years. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for that missing mint mark beneath the year. Study the surfaces, the shine, the details. Imagine holding a small, brown coin in your hand, a coin that has passed through grocery stores, wartime pockets, and generations of Americans. A simple 1-cent piece. Worn. Quiet. Almost forgotten. And yet, this tiny piece of copper history from the United States of America could be worth far more than its face value suggests. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance but hides extraordinary potential. The year 1941 was a turning point in American history. The world was on the brink of massive change. Factories were roaring, families were tightening budgets, and coins were moving rapidly through the economy. The wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln Wheat Cent, had already been in circulation for over 3 decades. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin was groundbreaking. It was the first regular issue United States coin to feature a real historical figure. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above his head is the word Liberty. To the right, the date 1941. And just beneath the date, something interesting, or rather, something missing. No mint mark. That absence tells us something important. When a 1941 penny has no mint mark, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark on its coins. So while Denver coins bore a small D and San Francisco coins carried an S, Philadelphia's coins stood plain and unmarked. But here's where things get exciting. In 1941, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 887 million pennies. That's a massive number. So you might think, how could something so common ever be valuable? The answer lies in condition. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Most 1941 wheat pennies circulated heavily. They were used in everyday transactions, buying bread, paying for newspapers, or dropped into jukeboxes. Over time, they wore down. The fine details on Lincoln's hair flattened. The wheat stalks on the reverse lost their sharp lines. The rich red luster faded into dull brown. But a tiny fraction of these coins survived in extraordinary condition. Some were saved in rolls. Some were tucked into drawers and forgotten. A few were carefully preserved, untouched by circulation. These pristine examples, especially those graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, are the ones that command serious attention. Let's talk about what makes a 1941 no mint mark wheat penny valuable. First, there's color designation. Collectors categorize copper coins into three main color types: brown, red-brown, and red. A full red coin retains nearly all of its original mint luster. That bright, fiery copper glow is incredibly desirable, especially for coins over 80 years old. Second, there's strike quality. Not all coins are struck equally. Some 1941 pennies show sharp, crisp details, clear lines in the wheat stalks, and well-defined features in Lincoln's hair and coat. Others appear soft or weakly struck. Third, there's surface preservation. Tiny nicks, scratches, and marks can drastically reduce value. A coin with clean surfaces and minimal contact marks stands out. Now imagine finding a 1941 wheat penny that checks all these boxes. Brilliant red color. Razor-sharp strike. Almost flawless surfaces. That's when we move from a simple 1-cent coin to a serious collector's treasure. In circulated condition, most 1941 no mint mark pennies are affordable. You might find them in the range of a few cents to a few dollars depending on where. Even in moderately uncirculated grades, they remain accessible to many collectors. But in the highest mint state grades, the absolute top tier, the story changes dramatically. Coins graded MS67 red or higher are exceptionally rare for this issue. At that level, even the smallest imperfection can prevent a coin from achieving such a grade. These elite examples are not just coins. They are time capsules. The reverse design of the wheat penny is another key part of its charm. Two stylized wheat stalks curve along the edges, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, the Latin motto E pluribus unum. This simple yet elegant design became iconic. It represents America's agricultural roots and the nation's unity. Collectors often say the wheat reverse has a warmth and nostalgia that later Lincoln Cent designs lack. When you hold a 1941 wheat penny, you're holding a piece of pre-World War II America. Just months after this coin was minted, the attack on Pearl Harbor would change the course of history. In fact, by 1943, copper would be needed for the war effort, and pennies were made from steel instead. That makes the copper 1941 penny one of the last issues before wartime material changes transformed American coinage. Now let's imagine the journey of one specific coin. Perhaps it was struck in early 1941 in Philadelphia. Fresh from the press, glowing red, it was packed into bags and shipped to a bank. Maybe a child received it as change and decided to save it in a small tin box. Decades passed. The child grew older. The box was forgotten in an attic. Years later, a family member opens that box and finds the coin, still bright, still stunning. That's how numismatic treasures are discovered. In today's market, high-grade examples of the 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny have achieved impressive auction results. The combination of historical significance, condition rarity, and strong collector demand can drive prices into astonishing territory. And in the very finest known condition, one extraordinary example of the 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny reached a value of $67,475. Yes, a coin once worth just 1 cent. This is why collectors carefully examine every old penny they find. While most will be modest in value, the possibility, however slim, keeps the excitement alive. If you're searching for one of these coins, here are a few tips. Check the date carefully. 1941. Look under the date for a mint mark. If there's no D or S, you have the Philadelphia issue. Next, examine the color. Does it still have original red luster? Rotate it under light and look for that bright copper shine. Inspect the details. Are the wheat lines sharp? Is Lincoln's hair well defined? Are there visible scratches or spots? If you believe you have a high-grade example, consider having it authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party grading service. Professional grading not only confirms authenticity, but can dramatically influence value. The beauty of coin collecting is that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. Old jars of change, inherited collections, estate sales, even pocket change finds. The 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny reminds us that history lives in small objects. It teaches us that value is not always obvious. And it proves that sometimes, the smallest things can carry the biggest stories. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the date. Study the surface. Imagine where it has been and what it has witnessed. We're diving into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny. At first glance, it looks like just another small copper coin. But hidden inside its history is a wartime story, a minting mystery, and the potential for serious value. Let's travel back to 1944. The world was in the middle of World War II. The United States was producing weapons, vehicles, ammunition, and equipment at an unbelievable pace. Copper was a critical metal for the war effort, used in shell casings and military wiring. Because of this, in 1943 the U.S. Mint made a dramatic change. Instead of producing pennies in bronze, they struck them in zinc-coated steel. Those 1943 steel cents are famous today, but in 1944, the U.S. Mint returned to using copper, though not exactly the same kind as before. Much of the metal used came from recycled shell casings from military training facilities. So when you hold a 1944 wheat penny, you're holding a piece of wartime history, metal that may once have been part of ammunition, now transformed into everyday currency. The 1944 wheat penny was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln had first appeared in 1909. The front of the coin features Lincoln's profile, along with the words, "In God we trust, liberty," and the date 1944. On the back, you'll see the classic wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. This design gives the coin its famous nickname, the wheat penny. Now let's talk about the no mint mark. When a 1944 penny has no mint mark under the date, That means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that era, Philadelphia coins typically did not carry a mint mark. So if you have a 1944 wheat penny without a letter under the date, it came from Philadelphia. And here's something important. Philadelphia produced over 1 billion 1944 pennies. That sounds like a huge number, and it is. Because of that, most 1944 no-mint mark wheat pennies are common today. In circulated condition, many are worth only a few cents above face value. Even in decent uncirculated grades, they are usually affordable for collectors. But this is where things get interesting. While the standard 1944 copper penny is common, rare mint errors and special varieties can be extremely valuable. And when it comes to coin collecting, condition is everything. The difference between a worn coin and a pristine example can mean the difference between pocket change and thousands of dollars. Collectors grade coins on a scale from poor to mint state. A 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny in heavily worn condition may show flattened details on Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks. But in high mint state grades, especially coins graded MS66, MS67, or higher, the surfaces are sharp, the luster is strong, and the coin may appear almost as fresh as the day it was struck. Now imagine a 1944 Philadelphia penny preserved for decades with blazing red copper color, no major marks, and incredible eye appeal. That's where values can skyrocket. There's another twist to this story, and it's one of the most famous era coins in American history. Although 1944 pennies were supposed to be made from copper, a tiny number were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These 1944 steel pennies are incredibly rare. If you ever find a 1944 penny that sticks to a magnet, you may have discovered one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever produced. However, today we're focusing specifically on the standard 1944 no-mint mark bronze wheat penny, not the steel error. So what makes a regular 1944 bronze penny valuable? First, condition. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC in top mint state grades with full red color, often labeled RD, command the highest prices. Over time, copper naturally darkens to brown. Red examples that retain their original mint color are far more desirable. Second, eye appeal. Even within the same grade, some coins look better than others. Smooth surfaces, minimal contact marks, and strong luster can push auction results higher. Third, strike quality. Some 1944 pennies show sharp detail in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks, while others appear softer. Strongly struck examples tend to attract more collector attention. Because so many were produced, finding a worn 1944 Philadelphia penny is easy. But finding one in superb gem condition is much more challenging. Many coins from that era entered circulation immediately and stayed there for decades. Imagine someone in 1944 receiving a brand new penny and change, perhaps buying groceries, stamps, or war bonds. Most people wouldn't think twice about saving it. But if someone had carefully tucked away rolls of fresh pennies, untouched and protected from air and moisture, those coins could still exist in remarkable condition today. Auction records have shown that high-grade 1944 no-mint mark wheat pennies can achieve astonishing prices when certified at the top of the grading scale. These coins are sought after by advanced Lincoln Cent collectors trying to build registry sets, competitive collections where even the smallest difference in grade matters. And this is where the excitement builds. Because while millions of 1944 pennies are ordinary, a tiny fraction in elite condition stand in a completely different category. So, how can you tell what you have? Start by examining the date. Make sure it clearly reads 1944. Look beneath the date. If there's no mint mark, it's from Philadelphia. Next, check the color. Is it brown, or full red? Full red coins are usually the most valuable in higher grades. Look at the surfaces under good lighting. Are there deep scratches, heavy wear, or corrosion? Or does the coin still shine with original luster? You can also weigh the coin. A standard 1944 bronze wheat penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it weighs closer to 2.7 grams and sticks to a magnet, that could indicate a rare steel error, but those are extraordinarily scarce and should be authenticated by professionals. For serious collectors, submitting a high-quality example to a grading service can unlock its full market value. Authentication and grading provide confidence to buyers and help establish a coin's position in the marketplace. What makes the 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny so captivating isn't just its potential value, it's the history it carries. Every coin passed through someone's hands during one of the most intense periods in world history. It circulated during wartime rationing, victory gardens, factory shifts, and historic battles overseas. It's a small piece of copper, but it represents resilience, industry, and a nation united in a global struggle. And for collectors, it represents opportunity. Many people still search through old jars of coins, inherited collections, and bank rolls hoping to find a hidden gem. While most 1944 pennies are common, the possibility of discovering an exceptional example keeps the excitement alive. The coin market has shown that when rarity meets condition and demand, prices can soar beyond expectations. A 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny in extraordinary mint state condition, with blazing red color, once sold at auction for an incredible $67,473. That's the power of preservation. That's the power of condition. And that's why checking your old pennies can be more than just a hobby. It can be a treasure hunt. So next time you see a 1944 wheat penny, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Look closer. Examine the details. Consider its journey from a wartime mint press to your hands today. Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins, the kind that has been sitting quietly on a shelf for decades, and pulling out a small brown penny that most people would overlook. It's worn, it's simple, and at first glance it seems ordinary. But what if that tiny coin could be worth a life-changing amount of money? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1950 mint mark wheat penny, a coin that carries history, mystery, and serious value. The 1950 wheat penny was struck at the legendary United States Mint facility in Denver. That small D mint mark beneath the date tells you it was born in the Mile High City, where millions of coins rolled off presses during a booming post-war America. The year 1950 was a time of economic growth, new beginnings, and rising industrial power in the United States. Coins from this era are more than just pocket change. They are pieces of living history. This penny features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. His strong profile has been a symbol of unity and resilience since it first appeared on the cent in 1909. On the reverse, you'll find the classic wheat ears design, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. That's why collectors lovingly call it the wheat penny. The wheat stalks represent prosperity and growth, perfectly fitting for a nation entering a new decade full of promise. Now here's something interesting. The 1950 wheat penny had a relatively high mintage, with over 334 million coins produced. That might sound like a lot, and it is. But survival and condition are what truly matter in the world of coin collecting. Over the decades, most of these pennies circulated heavily. They were spent at grocery stores, dropped into vending machines, and tossed into piggy banks. Many were scratched, worn, or damaged beyond collectible quality. So why does one of these coins capture so much attention today? The answer lies in condition and rarity within condition. In circulated grades, a 1950 wheat penny might only be worth a small premium over face value. But when you step into the realm of uncirculated coins, coins that were never used in everyday transactions, the story changes dramatically. Collectors are always searching for examples with blazing red luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear. Grading plays a crucial role. Professional grading services carefully examine coins under magnification, checking for contact marks, strike quality, and surface preservation. A coin graded mint state 65 is impressive. Mint state 66 is even better. But once you move into the elite grades, like mint state 67 and beyond, you enter a world where rarity increases exponentially. In top condition, the 1950D wheat penny becomes far scarcer than its mintage suggests. Finding one with pristine surfaces, full original red color, and virtually flawless detail is extremely difficult. Most coins from this year simply did not survive in that kind of condition. Time, oxidation, and careless handling took their toll. There's also the thrill of varieties and subtle differences. Collectors study die states, repunched mint marks, and striking characteristics. While the 1950D is not widely known for dramatic major errors, like some earlier wheat pennies, high-grade examples with exceptional eye appeal command serious attention. Sometimes, a coin's value isn't about a famous error, it's about perfection. Think about it. This coin is made mostly of copper, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs just 3.11 grams. It's smaller than a bottle cap. Yet under the right circumstances, it can represent an astonishing amount of money. Another fascinating aspect is the emotional connection collectors feel toward wheat pennies. For many people, these coins were the first collectible they ever held. Grandparents often passed them down. Kids searched rolls from the bank hoping to spot those distinctive wheat stalks instead of the Lincoln Memorial that replaced the design in 1959. The wheat penny represents nostalgia, history, and the excitement of discovery. The market for coins is driven by supply and demand. As more collectors compete for the finest known examples, prices rise. Registry set collectors, those who aim to assemble the highest graded complete sets, are especially competitive. If only a handful of 1950D wheat pennies exist in ultra-high grades, bidding wars can erupt when one appears at auction. Condition rarity is a powerful concept. A coin that is common in lower grades can become extremely rare at the very top. That's what makes the 1950D wheat penny so intriguing. It teaches collectors an important lesson: never judge a coin solely by its mintage number. Storage and preservation also matter. Coins that were carefully saved in rolls, original bank wrappers, or early coin albums had a better chance of surviving in high grades. But even then, copper is sensitive. It can tone, darken, or spot over time. Truly vibrant red examples are especially desirable because copper naturally changes color as it ages. Imagine holding one of these pennies under a bright light and seeing the surfaces glow with original mint brilliance. The details in Lincoln's hair are crisp. The wheat lines are sharp and fully struck. There are no distracting marks. It looks almost as if it just left the press in Denver in 1950. That is the kind of coin that stops collectors in their tracks. And here's where things become extraordinary. At major auctions, elite examples of the 1950D wheat penny in superb condition have achieved jaw-dropping prices. When demand, rarity, and perfection collide, the results can be astonishing. It's important to understand that not every 1950D penny is worth a fortune. Most are modestly priced and accessible to beginners. But the dream, the possibility, is what keeps people searching. Every time someone opens an old coin jar or sorts through inherited change, there's that spark of hope. Could there be a hidden treasure inside? Coin collecting is not just about money. It's about history, artistry, and the stories behind each piece. The 1950D wheat penny represents the closing chapter of the wheat design era. Less than a decade later, the reverse would change forever. These coins are a reminder of a simpler time in American commerce. If you think you might have one, the first step is to examine the mint mark. Look for that small D beneath the date. Next, evaluate the condition. Is Lincoln's cheek smooth and unworn? Are the wheat lines strong and defined? Does the coin retain original red color, or has it turned brown? For serious evaluation, professional grading is essential. Never clean a coin. Cleaning can drastically reduce its value. Collectors prize originality above all else. Even light polishing can leave microscopic scratches that permanently damage the surface. The world of coin collecting is filled with stories of unexpected finds. People have discovered valuable coins in old collections, estate sales, and even pocket change decades ago. While the chances of finding a top-grade 1950 wheat penny in circulation today are slim, it's not impossible to uncover one that has been quietly preserved. And now, let's talk about the number that captures everyone's imagination. In the highest known grades, under extraordinary circumstances, a 1950 wheat penny has reached an incredible auction result equivalent to $67,476. That's right. A single penny, once worth just 1 cent, transformed into a treasure valued at $67,476. So, the next time you see a humble wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely. Appreciate the craftsmanship. Understand the history. Because sometimes, the smallest coins carry the biggest surprises. Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins, the kind that has been sitting quietly on a shelf for decades, and pulling out a small copper penny that looks ordinary at first glance. It's brown, maybe a little worn, and carries the familiar portrait of one of America's greatest presidents. But what if that simple coin could be worth more than a brand new luxury car? Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1952 mint mark wheat penny, a tiny piece of copper that has captured the imagination of collectors across the nation. The 1952 wheat penny was struck at the legendary United States Mint facility in Denver. That small, D mint mark just below the date tells us it was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the most important branches in American coinage history. While millions of pennies rolled off the presses that year, only a select few would survive in exceptional condition, and even fewer would reach the highest levels of preservation that serious collectors dream about. To truly understand the value of the 1952 wheat penny, we need to travel back to the early 1950s. America was in a post-war boom. Industries were expanding, suburbs were growing, and pockets jingled with the sound of change. The wheat penny design, officially known as the Lincoln Cent, had already been in circulation for decades. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. The obverse of the 1952 wheat penny features Lincoln's iconic profile, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, can be found subtly placed on the coin, a small signature that connects collectors directly to the artist behind this enduring design. On the reverse, two elegant wheat stalks frame the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. This simple yet powerful imagery gave the coin its beloved nickname, the wheat penny. In 1952, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies. On paper, that might make the coin seem common. And in lower grades, it is. You can still find circulated examples for just a few cents or a few dollars depending on condition. But the real magic happens when we talk about condition, rarity within grade, and the elusive perfect strike. Coin collectors use a grading scale to determine condition, ranging from heavily worn pieces to pristine mint state examples. Most 1952 wheat pennies entered circulation immediately, passing from hand to hand in grocery stores, diners, and corner shops. They picked up scratches, lost their original mint luster, and slowly darkened with age. But a tiny number were set aside, saved in rolls, or preserved carefully for decades. When a 1952 wheat penny is found in high mint state condition, especially with sharp details, blazing red color, and minimal marks, its value increases dramatically. Collectors are particularly drawn to coins graded MS66, MS67, or higher. At these levels, even the smallest flaw can mean the difference between a good coin and a record-setting one. Color also plays a crucial role. Copper coins are classified as brown, red-brown, or red. A full red example retains nearly all of its original fiery mint color. That glowing red surface is extremely difficult to preserve over more than 70 years. Exposure to air, humidity, and handling quickly turns copper darker. So when a 1952 D wheat penny appears today in full red brilliance, it commands serious attention. Another factor that excites collectors is strike quality. The Denver Mint in the early 1950s sometimes produced coins with softer strikes. That means the details, especially in Lincoln's hair and the wheat lines on the reverse, might not appear fully sharp. A sharply struck 1952 D penny stands out immediately to trained eyes. Crisp wheat lines and bold lettering add to desirability and value. Let's talk about errors and varieties. While the 1952 D is not as famous for dramatic mint errors as some other years, collectors still search for repunched mint marks or subtle die variations. A clearly defined D mint mark with no doubling is typical, but any unusual feature can drive demand. Error coins often become unique treasures because they represent a moment in the minting process when something unexpected happened. The metal composition of the 1952 D wheat penny is another part of its story. It is made primarily of copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. At just 3.11 grams, it feels lightweight in your hand, yet it carries decades of history. Think about how many stories that tiny coin could tell, how many pockets it traveled through, how many purchases it helped complete. So, why would a coin with such a large original mintage ever become so valuable? The answer lies in survival rates and collector competition. While millions were made, very few survived in flawless condition. Over time, coins were lost, damaged, melted, or simply worn down. High-grade survivors became increasingly scarce. When two or more serious collectors compete for the finest known example of a coin, prices can skyrocket. Auctions become intense battlegrounds. Bidders watch closely, waiting for the perfect specimen to appear. When it does, the final hammer price can exceed all expectations. The 1952 D wheat penny is part of a larger and beloved series known as the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, minted from 1909 to 1958. Collectors often aim to build complete sets, including every year and mint mark combination. For many, completing the series in high grade becomes a lifelong challenge. And the 1952 D, while not the rarest in lower grades, becomes a true prize in top-tier condition. One of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting is the treasure hunt feeling. Imagine discovering a 1952 D wheat penny in an old family coin collection, tucked inside a dusty album. You carefully remove it, examine the mint mark, check the color, and realize it might be something special. That moment of possibility, that spark of excitement, is what keeps collectors searching. Authentication and grading by professional services also influence value. When a coin is certified and encapsulated by a respected grading company, buyers gain confidence in its authenticity and assign grade. That confidence often translates into higher prices at auction, because bidders know exactly what they are competing for. It's important to understand that most 1952 D wheat pennies are not worth enormous sums. Many are still affordable and accessible to beginner collectors. But the highest grade examples, the coins that look as if they were struck yesterday, exist in a completely different league. The market for rare coins fluctuates over time, influenced by demand, economic conditions, and collector interest. However, truly exceptional examples of classic U.S. coins tend to maintain strong long-term appeal. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series has one of the largest and most passionate collector bases in the world. That enduring popularity helps support strong values for top-quality coins There's also a nostalgic factor. The wheat penny design represents an earlier era of American history. It connects us to grandparents, to pocket change from mid-century America, to a time when a penny could actually buy something meaningful. Owning a high-grade 1952 D wheat penny is like holding a perfectly preserved time capsule. For those hoping to find one, knowledge is key. Always check the date and mint mark carefully. Use a magnifying glass to inspect details. Look for strong luster that flows across the surface when tilted under light. Examine Lincoln's cheek and jaw for marks, as these high points often reveal wear or contact damage. Flip the coin and study the wheat stalks. Sharp lines indicate a strong strike. Storage is equally important. Copper is sensitive to environmental conditions. Keeping coins in protective holders, away from humidity and extreme temperatures, helps preserve their color and surfaces. A coin that remains red and spotless over decades can become exponentially more valuable than one that tones unevenly. The story of the 1952 D wheat penny is ultimately a story about condition rarity. It reminds us that even common coins can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the importance of preservation. Imagine holding a small, brown copper coin in your hand, a coin that has passed through grocery stores, gas stations, lunch counters, and maybe even a soldier's pocket during the early years of the Cold War. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another old penny. But what if I told you that this tiny piece of metal could be worth a life-changing amount of money? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1952 wheat penny from the United States of America. A coin born in a time of post-war optimism, struck in California, and now hunted by collectors all over the world. Let's uncover why this simple 1-cent piece has captured so much attention, and how it could be hiding extraordinary value. The story begins in 1952. America was stepping into a new era. Televisions were becoming common in households. The Korean War was ongoing. Cars were getting bigger and flashier. And at the heart of everyday commerce, the Lincoln Wheat Penny continued to serve as the backbone of small change. The wheat penny design had already been in circulation for more than 4 decades. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic image. That alone made it revolutionary. On the front, you see the unmistakable portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His profile face is right, calm, and dignified. Above his head is the word liberty. To the right, the date 1952. And just beneath that date, if your coin was struck in San Francisco, you'll find a tiny but powerful letter, S. That small S mint mark tells an important story. It means your coin was struck at the San Francisco Mint, one of the key U.S. mint facilities responsible for producing millions of coins for circulation in the western United States. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the iconic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. The wheat ears symbolize prosperity and agricultural strength, a fitting image for a nation growing rapidly in the mid-20th century. Now here's where things get interesting. In 1952, the San Francisco Mint struck tens of millions of pennies. On paper, that sounds like a huge number. And yes, many 1952 South wheat pennies are common and worth only a few cents above face value, but not all of them. The value of a coin depends on 3 major factors: condition, rarity within condition, and errors or unique characteristics. Condition is everything in coin collecting. A penny that circulated for decades, passed from hand to hand, will show wear. Lincoln's hair might be flat. The wheat lines might be faded. The color might be dark brown from oxidation. But imagine a 1952 wheat penny that somehow escaped circulation. A coin that was stored carefully in a roll, tucked away in a drawer, or preserved in a collection. One with sharp details, full luster, and brilliant red copper color. Collectors call these high-grade examples mint state coins. And the difference in value between a worn example and a top-grade uncirculated specimen can be dramatic. A typical circulated 1952 wheat penny might be worth only a small premium, perhaps $1 or $2 depending on condition. But when you move into higher grades like MS65 or above, the numbers begin to climb. Now let's talk about color, something many beginners overlook. Copper coins are classified into 3 color categories: brown, red-brown, and red. A fully red coin retains most of its original mint luster and fiery copper shine. These are much scarcer because copper naturally darkens over time. A blazing red 1952 wheat penny in superb condition is a completely different animal compared to a dark brown circulated piece. Collectors love mint errors because they add uniqueness to coins that were otherwise mass-produced. With 1952 pennies, you might find repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, or even subtle doubling on the lettering. A repunched mint mark happens when the S was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions. Under magnification, you can see the outlines of multiple S shapes. These varieties are highly collectible because they tell the story of the minting process itself, human hands, manual adjustments, and the imperfections of machinery in the 1950s. Some collectors spend years searching rolls of old pennies hoping to discover one of these rare varieties. But beyond errors and varieties, the real excitement comes from condition rarity. In the coin grading world, even a 1-point difference can mean thousands of dollars. A coin graded MS66 might be impressive, but an MS67 or MS68? That's elite territory. Why? Because very few coins survive in near-perfect condition after more than 70 years. Tiny contact marks from other coins in mint bags, microscopic scratches, or slight discoloration can prevent a coin from reaching the highest grades. That's why population reports from grading services matter so much. If only a handful of 1952 wheat pennies exist in top condition, collectors will compete aggressively to own one. Imagine 2 wealthy collectors at an auction. Both are building high-grade Lincoln Cent sets. Both need the 1952s in a top-tier grade to complete their registry collection. When that rare specimen appears, bidding can escalate quickly. And that's how an ordinary 1-cent coin transforms into a headline-making treasure. Another factor that fuels demand is nostalgia. The wheat penny design ended in 1958, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959. Many collectors grew up finding wheat pennies in pocket change during the 1960s and 1970s. Today, those same people, now adults with disposable income, are willing to pay premium prices to reclaim a piece of their childhood. There's also historical romance attached to these coins. Think about where a 1952 wheat penny might have traveled. It may have been used to by a newspaper announcing Dwight D. Eisenhower's presidential campaign. It may have sat in a cash register during the golden age of American diners. It may have been saved in a glass jar by a child dreaming of buying a bicycle. Coins are time capsules. They carry fingerprints of the past, and that emotional connection often drives collectors just as much as investment potential. If you believe you might have a 1952 wheat penny, here's what you should do. First, never clean it. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Even light polishing leaves hairline scratches visible under magnification, and grading services will mark the coin as cleaned. Second, examine it carefully under good lighting. Look at Lincoln's cheek and jaw for marks. Check the wheat lines on the reverse. Inspect the mint mark to see if there are signs of repunching. Third, consider professional grading if the coin appears uncirculated with strong luster and minimal marks. Professional grading not only authenticates the coin, but also assigns it a numerical grade that establishes market value. Collectors rely heavily on third-party grading companies because they provide standardized assessments. Without grading, it's much harder to command top prices. While many 1952 wheat pennies trade for modest amounts, an exceptionally rare, superbly preserved, high-grade example has reached astonishing levels at auction. In the right condition, with remarkable preservation, blazing red color, and virtually flawless surfaces. A 1952 wheat penny has achieved a value of $67,472, from 1 cent, to a sum that could buy a car, fund an education, or make a significant investment. So, the next time you come across an old jar of pennies, a family coin collection, or even a forgotten roll tucked in a drawer, take a closer look. That tiny S beneath the date might just be your gateway to a remarkable discovery. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating small coins in American history, the 1956 wheat penny. A tiny piece of copper. A single cent. Yet, for some collectors, it has become a treasure worth far more than its face value. The 1956 wheat penny was struck at the legendary United States Mint, specifically at its Denver facility, which is why you see that small but powerful D mint mark just below the date. That little letter tells a big story. It connects this coin to the bustling mint in Denver during the mid-1950s, a time when America was growing rapidly, industries were booming, and everyday pocket change was flowing through millions of hands. This coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. Designed by Victor David Brenner, Lincoln's profile had already been on the cent since 1909. By 1956, it was a familiar and respected image. Strong, dignified, and instantly recognizable. Above his head, you see the word Liberty. In front of him, the date 1956. And beneath that date, the small D mint mark. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the famous wheat reverse, two elegant wheat stalks curving along the edges, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat design had been in use since 1909 and would continue until 1958, just 2 years after this coin was minted. That means the 1956 penny is part of the final chapter of the beloved Wheat Cent series. Now here's something interesting. The Denver Mint produced over 1 billion of these pennies in 1956. That's right, more than 1 billion. So at first glance, you might think this coin is extremely common and not worth much at all. And in circulated condition, that's mostly true. If your 1956 wheat penny is worn down from years of pocket change use, it may only be worth a few cents over face value. But condition is everything. In the coin collecting world, grade determines value. A penny that's been scratched, dulled, and worn from decades of use is very different from one that was preserved in pristine, mint state condition. The difference can mean hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from MS-60 to MS-70. The higher the number, the closer the coin is to absolute perfection. Most 1956 pennies that survived are somewhere in the MS-60 to MS-65 range if uncirculated. These are nice coins, but still relatively available. However, when you start talking about MS-67, MS-68, and especially coins with strong red coloration, what collectors call red or RD designation, things become serious. Copper coins, like the wheat penny, naturally tone and darken over time. That bright, fiery red color you see on a brand new penny fades as the metal reacts with air and moisture. So finding a 1956 wheat penny that has retained its original blazing red luster for over 6 decades is incredibly rare, and rarity plus demand equals value. Collectors love high-grade wheat cents, especially those from the final years of the series. The 1956 is one of the last Denver minted wheat pennies ever made. That historical position adds to its appeal. Now let's talk about errors. While the 1956 D isn't famous for a single dramatic error like the 1955 double die, there are minor varieties and striking anomalies that can boost value. Look closely for repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, or unusual toning. Even subtle doubling in the lettering can excite collectors if verified by a professional grading service. Authentication and grading are crucial. Professional grading companies carefully examine the coin's surface, luster, strike quality, and overall preservation. A single point difference in grade can mean thousands of dollars in price difference. Imagine two nearly identical 1956 D pennies. To the untrained eye, they look the same. But one has microscopic marks in the fields, while the other is virtually flawless. That tiny difference can separate an ordinary collectible from an extraordinary investment. Another key factor is strike quality. Denver minted coins in the 1950s sometimes show weaker strikes compared to their Philadelphia counterparts. On Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalk details, you may notice softness. A sharply struck example with full details is far more desirable. And then there's eye appeal. Collectors don't just look at technical grade. They look at how the coin feels visually. Does it glow under light? Does it have smooth, even color? Is the luster vibrant and uninterrupted? A stunning example can command premium prices far beyond price guide estimates. Storage also plays a major role. Many high-grade 1956 D wheat pennies survive because they were saved in original rolls. Back in the 1950s, some collectors would purchase fresh rolls from banks and store them away. Decades later, those rolls are opened, and sometimes pristine gems are discovered inside. It's like a time capsule. Now let's consider history. In 1956, America was in the heart of the post-war economic boom. Gas was cheap. Rock and roll was rising. Suburbs were expanding. And these pennies were passing through diners, movie theaters, grocery stores, and gas stations across the country. Every coin tells a story. Who held it? Where did it travel? What moments did it witness? That emotional connection adds another layer to coin collecting. You're not just buying copper. You're preserving a piece of American life. Today, most 1956 D wheat pennies are still affordable for beginner collectors. You can find circulated examples easily. But finding one in exceptional condition, especially with blazing red surfaces and nearly flawless preservation, is a different story. Those are the coins that turn heads at auctions. Those are the coins that get serious bids. Those are the coins that make headlines. And while millions were made, only a tiny fraction survive in top-tier condition. Time, handling, humidity, and simple circulation have eliminated most pristine examples from existence. So how do you know if your 1956 D wheat penny is valuable? First, check the mint mark. Look directly under the date for that small D. Next, examine the color. Is it brown, red-brown, or bright red? Then look at the details. Are Lincoln's hair strands sharp? Are the wheat lines crisp and bold? Tilt the coin under light. Does it shimmer with original mint luster? If you suspect you have something special, consider professional grading. A certified high-grade example can dramatically increase market confidence and resale value. And here's the exciting part. In extraordinary condition, nearly flawless, brilliantly struck, fully read, and graded at the very top of the scale, the 1956 D wheat penny has reached astonishing heights at auction. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1957 D wheat penny. A simple 1-cent coin that once jingled in pockets, dropped into soda machines, and rolled across kitchen tables, but in rare cases, could now be worth an astonishing amount of money. This coin was struck in 1957 at the legendary United States Mint, specifically at its Denver facility. That's what the small D mint mark under the date stands for. Denver. In the late 1950s, America was booming. Rock and roll was rising. Classic cars were cruising the highways, and millions upon millions of pennies were being produced for everyday commerce. The 1957 Wheat Penny is part of the beloved Wheat Cent series, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the front, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right. This design first appeared in 1909 and was revolutionary. It marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular issue U.S. circulating coin. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the iconic wheat ears framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. These twin wheat stalks give the coin its nickname, the Wheat Penny. This design continued until 1958, making the 1957 one of the final issues, before the reverse change to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. Now here's where things get interesting. In 1957 alone, the Denver Mint produced over 1.05 billion pennies. That's billion with a B. So at first glance, you might think this coin can't possibly be rare. And in circulated condition, that's mostly true. Many 1957 Wheat pennies are still floating around today, often worth only a few cents above face value. But condition changes everything. Coin collectors use a grading scale that ranges from poor all the way up to mint state 70. The higher the grade, the sharper the details, the stronger the luster, and the fewer the marks. A 1957 penny that has never been circulated, one that still shines with its original mint luster, can command significantly higher prices. In lower uncirculated grades, like MS63 or MS64, these coins may sell for modest premiums. But as you climb the grading ladder into MS66 and beyond, prices begin to rise dramatically. Why? Because finding a coin from 1957 that has survived nearly 7 decades without significant marks or dulling is incredibly difficult. But that's not the whole story. There's something even more exciting about certain 1957 Wheat pennies. Mint errors. One of the most famous varieties from 1957 is the double die error, although that is typically associated with the Philadelphia issue. However, collectors still search Denver coins carefully for strong strikes, die cracks, repunchment marks, and other subtle anomalies. A sharply struck 1957 with blazing red color, what collectors call RD, for full red, is far more valuable than one that has turned brown over time. Copper naturally oxidizes, so original red examples are much harder to find decades later. Let's talk about composition for a moment. The 1957 Wheat penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. That rich copper composition gives it that classic warm tone collectors love. But here's what truly drives excitement in the coin community: perfection. When a coin is graded at the very top of the scale, especially in MS67 or higher, it becomes a condition rarity. Even though over 1 billion were minted, only a tiny fraction survive in near-perfect condition. And when elite collectors compete for the finest known examples, prices can skyrocket. Auction records have shown that extraordinary specimens, coins with flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and radiant mint luster, can command staggering amounts. Imagine pulling a penny from an old jar, examining it under magnification, and discovering it's a top-tier survivor. That's why collectors carefully inspect every 1957 they encounter. It's the thrill of the hunt. The possibility that something so common could actually be incredibly rare in the right condition. Another factor influencing value is eye appeal. Two coins with the same technical grade can sell for very different prices depending on color, strike quality, and overall visual beauty. A coin with vibrant, original red surfaces and minimal contact marks will always attract stronger bids than a dull, spotted example. Let's also remember historical context. In 1957, America was in the heart of the Eisenhower era. Suburban neighborhoods were expanding, televisions were becoming household staples, and the space race was just beginning. These pennies were part of everyday life, exchanged at diners, grocery stores, and movie theaters. That historical connection adds intangible value. Collectors aren't just buying copper. They're buying a piece of mid-century American life. If you're checking your own coins, here's what to look for. First, confirm the date reads 1957 and that there's a small D below it. That mint mark is essential for this variety. Second, examine the coin's condition. Are Lincoln's cheek and jaw sharp? Do you see strong lines in the wheat stalks on the reverse? Is there original mint luster when you tilt the coin under light? Third, look at the color. Bright red is best. Red-brown is decent. Fully brown typically carries lower premiums unless the grade is exceptionally high. Fourth, consider professional grading. If you truly believe your coin is in pristine condition, submitting it to a respected grading service could authenticate and encapsulate it, potentially unlocking maximum value. Now here comes the moment everyone waits for, the value. Most circulated 1957 D wheat pennies are worth only a small premium over face value. Lightly uncirculated examples might bring a modest sum. High-grade uncirculated pieces can reach into the hundreds or even thousands, depending on certification and demand. But in the rarest cases, when a 1957 D wheat penny is preserved in extraordinary, near-perfect mint condition and stands among the finest known, it has reached jaw-dropping auction results. And one exceptional specimen has achieved a value of $67,473. Let that sink in. A single cent. Once used to buy candy or make exact change. Now worth more than many cars. That's the magic of coin collecting. Its history, art, economics, and treasure hunting combined into one small metal disc. The 1957 D wheat penny reminds us that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight, in old jars, dresser drawers, and forgotten collections. So, the next time you see a wheat penny, don't ignore it. Check the date. Look for that Denver mint mark. Examine the condition carefully. Imagine holding a small, brown copper coin in your hand, a coin that many people would overlook without a second thought. It might be sitting in an old jar, tucked away in a drawer, or hiding in a forgotten coin album. But what if I told you that this tiny piece of history could be worth a life-changing amount of money? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1958 D wheat penny. A coin that marked the end of an era. A coin that millions used for everyday purchases. And a coin that, under the right conditions, can be worth far more than 1 cent. The year was 1958. Rock and roll was rising. America was booming. And the United States Mint was producing the final wheat pennies before a major design change. That's right, 1958 was the last year the wheat reverse design was ever minted for circulation. In 1959, the Lincoln Memorial design would replace it forever. This makes the 1958 wheat penny historically important. But when you add the D mint mark, the story becomes even more interesting. The 1958 D wheat penny was struck at the famous Denver Mint. The small D mint mark appears just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, under the year 1958. This simple letter tells us where the coin was made, and collectors always pay attention to mint marks. On the front of the coin, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Brenner's initials, VDB, appear subtly at the bottom of the reverse on some earlier wheat cents, though by 1958 they were placed discreetly on the obverse. The reverse design features two elegant wheat stalks curving along the edges, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This iconic wheat design had been in use since 1909, introduced to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. Now here's something important. The 1958 D wheat penny was not rare in terms of mintage. In fact, the Denver Mint produced over 800 million of them. That's a massive number. So you might be wondering, how could a coin with such a huge mintage be valuable? Most 1958 pennies entered circulation. They were used in stores, vending machines, and everyday transactions. They were scratched, worn down, and eventually tossed into jars or lost. But a tiny fraction of these coins survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, collectors' grade coins on a scale from poor to mint state. The highest grades, like MS-66, MS-67, or even higher, are extremely difficult to find for coins that were widely circulated. A 1958 wheat penny in average circulated condition is usually worth only a few cents above face value. Maybe a few cents more if it's in decent shape. But when you start getting into high mint state grades with blazing red luster, sharp details, and no visible marks, that's where things change dramatically. Copper coins are especially difficult to preserve. Over time, they darken. They tone. They spot. The original red color fades into brown. So when collectors find a 1958 penny that still has full original red brilliance, what they call RD for red, it becomes highly desirable. And then there are errors. Mint errors can transform an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, and repunched mint marks all add excitement to the hunt. While the famous 1955 double die is legendary, even subtle doubling or strong strike characteristics on a 1958 can bring attention from serious collectors. But the real magic happens when condition, color, and demand come together. Imagine a 1958 wheat penny graded at the very top of the population report. Perfect strike. Flawless surfaces. Brilliant red color as if it were minted yesterday. Coins like that are incredibly rare, not because they weren't made, but because so few survived untouched. Professional grading companies carefully examine coins under magnification. They look for contact marks, luster quality, strike sharpness, and overall eye appeal. The difference between MS-66 and MS-67 might seem tiny to the naked eye, but in the coin market, that difference can mean thousands of dollars. And here's what makes the 1958 wheat penny so exciting. It represents the end of a classic American coin series. Collectors who build complete wheat cent collections need that final year. And they want the best possible example. Demand drives prices. When two determined collectors compete for the finest known example, auction prices can skyrocket. Especially when population reports show only a handful graded at that level, and none higher. It's not just about metal. It's about history. It's about scarcity in top condition. It's about owning one of the best surviving examples of the last wheat penny ever struck in Denver. Another factor to consider is the composition. The 1958 wheat penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That classic bronze alloy gives it a warm tone that collectors love. Later pennies would change composition, especially during wartime and in modern years, but 1958 still carried that traditional bronze feel. Now imagine finding one in an old collection passed down through generations. Maybe it's been stored in a protective album since 1958. Maybe it was saved the day it was minted. These stories add emotional value to the financial value. And here's something important for viewers. Not every 1958 penny is valuable. Condition is everything. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value. Scratches, fingerprints, or improper storage can dramatically reduce what collectors are willing to pay. If you believe you found a high-grade example, the best step is to have it evaluated by a reputable grading service. Authentication and professional grading can unlock its true market potential. What makes coin collecting so exciting is that treasures can hide in plain sight. A coin that once bought candy for a child in 1958 might today sit in a collection worth thousands. It's like a time capsule made of copper, and sometimes, just sometimes, the market delivers a jaw-dropping result. In the world of elite coin auctions, A top-grade 1958 D wheat penny has reached an astonishing value of $67,478, from 1 cent, to an amount that could buy a car, fund a dream, or completely transform someone's year. All from a coin most people would never look at twice. So next time you see a wheat penny, don't ignore it. Flip it over. Check the date. Look for that small D mint mark. Examine the color. Study the details in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks on the reverse.